the answer is no, I'd say you need to. Oh, there goes my earring. That was dramatic. Oh, God. This is what happens when you don't put backs in your earrings, kids. Oh, God. Stay put earrings. Maybe I should go get backs for them. I'm not going to. Hey friends, we are back. So I know I skipped a week last week. My bad. It is because I got slammed with actual paying work, and so YouTube got booted to the back burner. That's not a good mentality, but it is the mentality I have because I like money. Anyway, so this week, one of the most common questions about freelancing is, how do I become a freelance writer? So I don't think I could do this topic justice in one video. So this is going to be the start of a series on how to become a freelance writer. And today we're going to talk about what I think is one of the most important steps before you do anything else. And that is deciding whether freelance is actually a good, lucrative career path for you. A lot of people look at freelance writing as an easy career, and in some aspects it is, but I've made whole videos on the topic of some of the challenges that come along with freelance writing. I'll link somewhere up here so you can check that out if you haven't already. But it's not a career that everyone is suited for. There are challenges that come along with it. There are kind of some personality traits that will stand in the way of your success as a freelancer. So if you're thinking it might be something you're interested in, if you just kind of want to get a sense of whether freelance is a good choice for you, I've put together a list of 10 questions maybe. I'm not sure how many there are exactly, but a bunch of questions that you need to ask yourself to help figure out if this is actually going to work for you. So I'm gonna go over them relatively quickly, and we're just gonna bang through them, and you can kind of check them off in your head as we go. The first question you're going to want to ask yourself before you kind of jump into a freelance writing career is whether or not you're actually a good writer. And I know you're like, okay, I wouldn't be considering this if I wasn't a good writer, but there's a difference between being a good writer by society standards and being a good writer by professional writing standards. How do you figure this out? I'd say have a writer actually read something you've written and give you honest feedback. I generally ask people or tell people, a general rule of thumb is, if the only person who's ever told you were a good writer is like your 5th grade English teacher, you may want to reconsider that idea. And I'm not saying this to be harsh. I'm sure you're a fine writer, but there is a difference between, being a good hockey player and being a professional grade hockey player. There's a difference. There's a reason some people can make it and some people can't. And just because you're good at something does not mean you have the chops to do it professionally. So that's one of the biggest ones, and probably one of the hardest ones to be honest with yourself about, but is really important because it's literally the core skill of this job. So be honest with yourself. The next question I'd say to ask yourself if you're thinking about, quitting your job to be a freelancer is whether or not you have any jobs lined up. Do you have any jobs currently? Do you have any job leads? If you don't have any job leads, any prospects, and you just quit tomorrow, you're going to be putting yourself at a really big disadvantage because you're starting literally from zero. When I made the decision to quit my job to do freelance full time, I had 3 or 4 gigs already, ongoing gigs that I would get. Did it cover all my expenses? No, but it was enough money that I could get by on while I ramped up my business. The next question I want you to think about is pertaining to finances. So while not necessary, it is often very beneficial to have some sort of financial cushion to fall back on when you're first starting out with self-employment. And what I mean by this is you need some sort of safety net. You need either a very well padded emergency fund, you need a spouse who makes enough money to cover both of your expenses, you need parents who will let you live there rent free while you get on your feet. Something like that to mitigate some of the financial stress that you will feel when first starting out in this career will really go a long way. For me, it was my parents. I'll admit it. When I was 23 and I was like, hey, I'm going to do freelance full time, I sucked up my pride and I was like, Mom and Dad, can I move back in for a year to just get this thing going? And just having somewhere to live rent free, it really allowed me to take more risks in my career so I could get going faster than if I was having to just take any job just because I needed the money to pay the rent. So some sort of financial cushion is really important. It's not necessarily critical, but it's going to make your life a lot easier. On the same note, you're going to want to kind of consider whether throughout the course of your career, not just at first, but over the years you do this, can you weather income fluctuations? If you have a lot of expenses, if you have a big mortgage, if you have, kids going to private school, if you have kids in general, kids are expensive, pets are expensive. If you have any sort of very large financial responsibilities, you might want to reconsider freelancing because you have no guaranteed income. You will not be getting a guaranteed check every month, and that can be really hard for some people. Luckily, I don't really have much. I don't have student loans at this point. My car is paid off. I don't have a lot of expenses, so having a bad month is not the end of the world for me, but for some people that could be a lot more strenuous, so make sure to consider that. This one's not necessarily as important as the ones I just talked about, but another question to ask yourself is whether you're introverted or extroverted. Because as a freelancer, it can be really lonely. And I talked about this in my video about freelance writing challenges. But yeah, you work by yourself pretty much all day. You don't have coworkers. A lot of people work from home. And so you're not getting that same social interaction that you're going to get at an office. And for me, I'm an introvert. I don't really care as much. I need socialization, but my boyfriend comes home at the end of the day, and that's enough for me on a general basis. Whereas people who are really outgoing, really social, really extroverted, you need that people time. Can't relate, but if that is you might struggle a little bit in this career path. Another important question you'll want to ask yourself is whether you're good at holding yourself accountable, because in a regular office environment, you have a manager who's gonna oversee what you're doing, make sure you're on top of things, make sure you're getting everything done. When you work for yourself, it's just you. If you can't motivate yourself to get stuff done, this might not be a good career path for you. If you have the choice to, sit on the couch and play video games or work, and if you're going to choose video games every single time, this isn't a career path for you, because you have to be able to force yourself to sit down and do your work, no matter if you don't want to do it, no matter if there's other fun stuff going on. That's really integral for freelancing, so consider that. These hurt my ears. Another aspect of freelancing that's pretty important is having some sort of support system. For me, it's both my family and my friends. My friends all work in marketing. A lot of them are writers. And so whenever I'm struggling, whenever I need a pep talk, they're there for me. They help me brainstorm ideas. Whatever I need, they're there for me. The same goes for my family. If I ever need business advice, if I ever need advice on investing or a pep talk about taxes, is that a thing? Ugh, God, sounds horrible. My dad is there for me. My mom too. Love you, Mom. But having some sort of support system to help you weather the challenges of this career is very important. It's important in any career, but I know for me personally, I've especially needed more support, more advice doing this than I ever did when I was working a 9 to 5. So those are the questions that I think you really need to sit down and think about before you decide that you're going to pursue a career as a freelance writer. Don't get me wrong, I don't think you need to necessarily check yes on every single box, but if you're saying no, just reconsider it. You don't want to set yourself up for failure. That's kind of my mentality in life. I always set myself up for success, and if you put in the time and the effort beforehand to make sure things go well, you're gonna set yourself up for success. So don't just jump into it blindly because it seems easy. That's bad. Please don't do that. I don't want you to go through that. You don't want you to go through that. So don't go through that. That said, thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully part 2 will be coming soon. And so if you want to learn more about freelance writing and how to become a freelance writer, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We put out videos every Friday. Thanks guys. See you next time.